Wang Xian, feeling overwhelmed, couldn't keep it together anymore. He coughed up a mouthful of old blood and then collapsed, his eyes rolling back as he fainted. This sight prompted Lu Shang to ponder. He questioned whether the force behind his punch had been too much, but quickly dismissed the idea. It was clear to him that he hadn't exerted much strength at all. He hadn't tapped into the full extent of his power, not even using the potent abilities like the power of the stars or the might of the divine whale. This realization left Lu Shang speechless. As he observed Wang Xian lying unconscious, he couldn't help but shake his head. Despite this, he reasoned that Wang Xian had sought the fight willingly and therefore couldn't blame Lu Shang for his defeat. Lu Shang couldn't fathom why his opponents seemed so weak in comparison. Little did he remember that he was employing fighting techniques from millennia in the future. The sudden movement of the leader from the Hailong Martial Arts Academy caught everyone's attention in the stands. His face displayed a mix of shock and disbelief. The academy had pinned high hopes on their team, particularly on Wang Xian, who was expected to rival strong opponents like the Jade Twins and Chaoyue Saintis Miao. However, his unexpected loss wasn't the most troubling aspect. What baffled the leader was Wang Xian's failure to even attempt to defend against Lu Shang's punch, despite unleashing his full strength. The leader found this unacceptable. He pondered over the immense strength possessed by Lu Shang from the Seven Saints and speculated whether Lu Shang's final words were intended as mockery. Turning his attention back to the arena, Lu Shang calmly instructed the referee to declare the outcome. The spectators, including fellow warriors, were stunned by the swift and decisive victory. While they anticipated Lu Shang's triumph, they hadn't anticipated it to be so effortless. It was as if Lu Shang had effortlessly disposed of Wang Xian, akin to swatting away an insignificant insect. The referee, finally roused from his daze, hastily proclaimed, "Lu Shang wins at 0-1-3-5, marking the conclusion of the match. The announcement of Lu Shang's victory jolted the onlookers back to reality, leaving them amazed and astounded. Suddenly, the atmosphere around the arena grew noisy with chatter and excitement. Many people found it hard to contain their emotions and expressed their astonishment through animated discussions. The old students from the Seven Saints University were particularly ecstatic and surprised by the outcome. Their excitement was palpable, almost causing them to leap for joy. "Devil King Lu Shang!" exclaimed one enthusiastic individual, shouting out Lu Shang's renowned nickname from his time at the university. This declaration ignited a flurry of responses from the other former students, who eagerly joined in, chanting, "Demon King." Some of the younger warriors, initially intimidated by Lu Shang's strength and demeanor, found themselves swept up in the fervor of the moment, adding their voices to the chorus of praise. In a world where strength is revered, it was only natural to honor a young, handsome, and immensely powerful warrior like Lu Shang. Meanwhile, Lu Shang, feeling somewhat bewildered by the sudden outpouring of support, swiftly left the stage. A few minutes later, he found himself surrounded by other students as he sat down on a bench. Observing the intensity of their gaze, Lu Shang couldn't help but notice a mix of surprise and fear in their expressions. Among the group, some girls couldn't conceal their admiration for Lu Shang, finding him both impressive and captivating. One of the girls remarked to her friend how even while seated, Lu Shang exuded an aura of power and charm. Agreeing with her friend's observation, she acknowledged Lu Shang's undeniable allure. However, despite the adulation he received and the catchy nickname, Demon King, Lu Shang couldn't help but feel a sense of discomfort. He found the whole affair somewhat juvenile and wasn't particularly fond of the moniker Demon King. Deep in thought, Lu Shang pondered the significance of the titles bestowed upon him. He contemplated whether it would be more fitting to be referred to as the Emperor of Heaven, the immortal Venerable Beixian, or the Great Sage of Ruthless Humans, titles that carried greater prestige and power. Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that it might be premature for him to adopt such grandiose names at this stage of his journey. At the competition venue's highest sponsor seat, several martial arts association masters observed the unfolding events with amazement. They couldn't help but express their astonishment at the scene before them. One master, distinguished by his brown hair, marveled at the display of boxing technique surpassing the control level and the unmatched physical prowess exhibited by Lu Shang. He noted that Lu Shang hadn't even utilized qi yet managed to defeat Wang Xian from the Hailong school with just one punch. The master couldn't help but acknowledge Lu Shang's remarkably solid foundation. Another master, sporting gray hair, echoed the sentiment, expressing surprise at Lu Shang's victory over Wang Xian, who was considered one of the top contenders in the martial arts conference. He mentioned rumors of Lu Shang's expertise in spear art, but noted that Lu Shang hadn't even resorted to using a weapon in the fight. In response, the brown-haired master cautioned against premature judgment, citing the formidable abilities of the Ji Dao twins, who were not to be underestimated. He speculated on how much the twins might have progressed in the 2 years since they were last seen. Interrupting their discussion, Jiang He, the chairman of the organizer, urged them to focus on watching the ongoing match instead of debating irrelevant matters. The other grandmasters respectfully heeded his words and ceased their conversation. However, Jiang He couldn't hide his admiration for Lu Shang. He remarked on Lu Shang's exceptional talent and solid foundation, acknowledging him as a true martial arts prodigy. He praised Lu Shang's abilities, which had even caught the attention of Saint Tanzhongyu, considering him a remarkable anomaly that defied conventional wisdom. In the spectator seats of the Ji Dao Martial Arts Hall, the Ji Dao twins, who had recently concluded their own battle, sat side by side. Chao Qing turned to his brother and expressed his thoughts, remarking on Lu Shang's swift victory over Wang Xian with just one punch. He criticized Wang Xian for not giving his all in the fight, which led to his defeat. The twins were momentarily surprised by the outcome but quickly regained their composure. Meanwhile, Chao Qian casually grabbed a bottle of mineral water, opened it, and took a sip while reflecting on Lu Shang's strength. He suggested that the stronger Lu Shang becomes, the more impressive their own achievements will appear. He emphasized the potential benefits they could reap from their association with such a formidable opponent in the martial arts world. In another part of the venue, Jang Ju, a girl renowned for her martial arts skills, cast a worried glance in Lu Shang's direction before quickly looking away. Her expression betrayed her anxiety as she observed the growing influence of a mysterious figure, symbolized by a spreading shadow. As the day wore on and the 7th round of the competition came to an end, the sun began to set, signaling the conclusion of the day's events. The organizer of the Martial Arts Association announced the end of the day's competition, informing the participants that it would resume at 8 o'clock the following morning. With the announcement, the crowd dispersed, and Lu Shang was escorted to a separate room. Despite the long day, he found himself in comfortable accommodations, equipped with various amenities to ensure his rest and relaxation. As Lu Shang sat on the bed, he reflected on how quickly the day's tournament had ended. He hadn't even had a chance to warm up before it was over, and now he realized that tomorrow would already be the final round. Moments later, he found himself staring at the wall, feeling a surge of excitement as a murderous aura emanated from his body. The prospect of facing formidable opponents in the final match thrilled him, igniting a sense of anticipation for the battles to come. Lost in his thoughts, Lu Shang's phone suddenly buzzed, signaling a new message. Curious, he turned his head to glance at the screen, wondering who the message was from. Opening the message list, he saw that the first message was from his sister, Lu Qinghe. She encouraged him to aim for first place in the National Martial Arts Conference and mentioned that he was being televised again. Lu Shang explained to her that the National College Student Martial Arts Conference was broadcast live on TV. He smiled at her message and was about to respond when something dawned on him. Quickly, he typed out a message, instructing his sister not to let their parents watch the game tomorrow. Confused, Lu Qinghe replied with questions, wondering why their parents shouldn't watch. Annoyed, Lu Shang responded honestly, expressing his concern about them witnessing violence on TV. However, when his sister didn't reply for a while, Lu Shang began to reconsider. He quickly sent another message, this time joking that he was just kidding. However, he reiterated his point about the potential violence in the final match and the psychological impact it could have on their parents. He urged his sister not to watch to prevent them from getting worried or scared. Lu Shang wasn't known for typing lengthy messages, explaining his words and actions, or making jokes. So when he sent his message, it was out of character for him. After a while, his sister, Lu Qinghe, finally replied. She expressed her concern, admitting that his joke had scared her, and urged him not to make such jests about becoming a murderer. However, she agreed to try her best to prevent their parents from watching the live broadcast the next day. Yet, she warned Lu Shang that their parents might still end up watching the replay later, despite her efforts. Upon receiving her response, Lu Shang decided not to reply. He felt his input was unnecessary at this point. Instead, he pondered a better solution to the problem. I can't stop others from watching, but can I prevent the live broadcast? He contemplated the location of the live broadcast camera, situated on the platform atop the mountain. With his powerful spiritual abilities at level 7, destroying the small live broadcast setup wouldn't be difficult for him. Lu Shang scrolled through his chat records once more, noticing a surge in unread messages, most of which were received today. Among them were 5 new messages. The first was from Lu Qiming, addressing him as brother and expressing admiration for him. The second came from Zhang Dandan, who acknowledged that Lu Sheng might not see or respond to her message but found solace in the thought of sharing the same starry sky. The third message was from Qin Xiaojun, assuring Lu Sheng of his capabilities and reminding him not to forget to visit them, as someone was missing him. As Lu Sheng read through these messages, another notification popped up, catching his attention more than the rest. It was from Dong Qingxue, wishing him good luck and offering words of encouragement. Seeing her name brought a pang to Lu Sheng's heart, prompting him to turn his gaze towards the window. Bathed in the moonlight, the night appeared beautiful to him, prompting him to decide to go for a walk. Lu Sheng grabbed a coat and left the room, stepping out into the quiet night. At the summit of the cumulus clouds, the night air was icy cold, with a thin layer of snow covering the martial arts square. The temperature plummeted to a bone-chilling -10 degrees. A petite and adorable figure, clad in a delicate creamy white gown, stood at the edge of the cliff, gazing up at the night sky while taking slow, steady breaths. Jang Ju rubbed her frozen hands together and turned away from the cliff's edge. As a surpassing martial arts saint, her martial arts training regimen had been meticulously planned. Each night, Zhang Ju dedicated half an hour to practicing a secret breathing technique. She dared not skip a single session, knowing that the closer she aligned with nature, the greater the benefits. This dedication was the reason why she braved the freezing winds atop the mountain, even in the dead of night. "It's so cold," she muttered to herself. Despite enduring over half an hour of exposure to the biting cold, even Zhang Ju's youthful face couldn't escape the reddening effects of the frost. Glancing upwards, Zhang Ju marveled at the clear night sky, adorned with countless twinkling stars. She lingered for a moment, reluctant to tear herself away from the enchanting sight above. Suddenly, there came the sound of light footsteps, crunching softly on the snow. Zhang Ju, startled, noticed that the clear night sky above her head was now obscured. A vast black mist, visible only to her, spread from the direction of the approaching footsteps. Turning sharply, Zhang Ju saw a slender figure standing a few dozen meters away, silently observing her. Her heart raced, and fear gripped her as she instinctively lowered her head and fled in the opposite direction. "Am I really that frightening?" Lu Sheng pondered, perplexed as he touched his cheek. Despite the increasing number of names in the spouse column of his profile, he couldn't shake the feeling that his relationships with the opposite sex were always strained. Unable to comprehend, Lu Sheng sighed and stuffed his hands into his pockets, idly gazing at the moon. Meanwhile, Zhang Ju, hiding behind a rock with one hand resting on it for support, watched Lu Sheng from a distance. As she saw him no longer searching for her, she breathed a sigh of relief. However, as Lu Sheng kept his hands in his pockets, a dark aura began emanating from his body, spreading rapidly. In mere moments, the aura reached Zhang Ju, leaving her in shock. As Lu Sheng continued to gaze at the moon, the dark aura expanded, enveloping everything and blotting out the sun, moon, and stars. Witnessing this phenomenon, the girl with blue hair couldn't help but wonder about the true nature of Lu Sheng. She began to question what kind of supernatural being he might be. The next day rolled in, and the students gathered for lunchtime at the bustling cafeteria. It was a place filled with delicious aromas and an array of food laid out in a buffet style. Each student eagerly made their way to the counter, where they could pick and choose from the tempting dishes on display. Among the crowd, Lu Sheng made his approach to the buffet counter, his hunger driving his choices. As he pointed out various dishes to the woman serving, his appetite seemed insatiable. The woman, balancing a ladle in one hand, couldn't help but be surprised by the sheer amount of food Lu Sheng requested. As the woman piled food onto his plate, Lu Sheng's attention was diverted by something behind him. Turning slightly, he caught sight of a girl with striking blue hair peeking from behind a nearby pillar. Curiosity sparked within him, wondering what she was up to. Meanwhile, in another corner of the cafeteria, a black-haired student cloaked in a hood made his way to a table, tray in hand. However, he found himself surrounded by a group of students, all wearing mischievous smiles. Confusion etched across his face as he questioned their intentions and politely asked to pass through. Among the group stood Chao Qian, radiating an aura of power. He stepped forward, locking eyes with the black-haired student, his smirk evident. With an air of superiority, he warned the student to pray not to cross paths with him in combat that day. The black-haired student remained silent, but his gaze turned fierce as he contemplated the rumors surrounding Qian's prowess in battle. Unfazed, Qian continued to exude confidence, admitting that he held nothing back when it came to fighting. This revelation left the black-haired student feeling unsettled, prompting him to confront Qian about his intentions. Qian, however, merely smiled and took a step back, his fists clenched tightly. Just as tensions rose between them, another figure approached, carrying their own tray of food. It was none other than Lu Shang, making his way towards the commotion, unaware of the brewing confrontation. As Lu Shang balanced the tray of food in his hands, enjoying a succulent chicken leg, he inadvertently collided with Qian. The sudden impact startled Qian, his expression shifting to one of fury as he turned to confront the culprit. With a sharp tone, he demanded to know who was responsible for the collision. Turning around, Qian's anger intensified as he realized it was Lu Shang, calmly munching on his chicken leg. Ignoring Qian's menacing glare, Lu Shang remained composed, simply removing the bone from his mouth with a casual gesture. Qian, however, was not about to let the incident slide. With a smug smile, he taunted Lu Shang to surrender, believing himself to have the upper hand. But while Qian was distracted by his own arrogance, Lu Shang seized the opportunity to strike. With lightning speed, Lu Shang reached out, his grip firm as he grasped Qian's neck, lifting him off the ground effortlessly. Panic surged through the cafeteria as onlookers watched in shock at the sudden turn of events. Ignoring the commotion, Lu Shang maintained his hold on Qian, his gaze fixed and unwavering. Qian, struggling for breath, managed to muster the strength to question Lu Shang's actions. But Lu Shang's response was chilling, his eyes filled with a murderous intent as he questioned Qian's motives. As Qian's consciousness began to fade, fear gripped him. Realizing the dire situation he was in, sweat beaded on his forehead, and foam formed at the corners of his mouth as he struggled against Lu Shang's iron grip. Just as it seemed Qian was on the brink of collapse, a commanding voice rang out, cutting through the tension. It was Lucy, emitting a powerful green aura, known as Lian Jibei. With determination, Lian Jibei intervened, his aura creating a palpable pressure in the atmosphere as he advanced towards Lu Shang, ready to put an end to the escalating conflict. The tension in the cafeteria hung, his gaze fixed on Lu Shang with a serious intent. He demanded that Lu Shang release him, his voice carrying the weight of authority. Nearby, Lian Jibei observed the unfolding situation, his arms crossed as he watched with a keen eye. Stepping forward, Lian Jibei reminded Lu Shang that the tournament had not yet commenced, cautioning him against further actions that could lead to disqualification. With one hand still firmly gripping Qian's neck and the other holding the food tray, Lu Shang turned his focus to Lian Jibei, lost in contemplation for a few moments. After a brief pause, Lu Shang relented, releasing his hold on Qian, who collapsed to the ground, clutching his neck in pain. With a smirk, Lu Shang assured Lian Jibei that it was all just a joke, adding a touch of mischief to the tense atmosphere. Qian, still recovering from the ordeal, muttered curses under his breath as he struggled to catch his breath. Lu Shang, seemingly unfazed, placed a hand on Qian's shoulder, his words dripping with sarcasm as he remarked on the beauty of Qian's neck, sending a shiver down Qian's spine. With a powerful aura emanating from his body, Lu Shang leaned in close to Qian, his tone menacing as he advised Qian to return home to his mother. With that, Lu Shang departed, leaving behind a bewildered Qian and a contemplative Lian Jibei. As Lian Jibei distanced himself from the scene, Qian scrambled to his feet, extending a hand towards Lian Jibei, eager to explain himself. But Lian Jibei showed little interest, continuing on his path without sparing Qian a second glance. Meanwhile, the other students whispered among themselves, astonished by Lu Shang's swift and decisive actions. Words spread like wildfire through the cafeteria, with one student revealing that Lu Shang had just effortlessly dealt with the formidable demonic star of the Extreme Twins, leaving everyone in awe of his prowess. Upon hearing the news of Lu Shang's prowess, the other students in the cafeteria turned their heads towards him, their expressions a mix of surprise and curiosity. They couldn't help but wonder just how strong Lu Shang truly was, speculating if he had already attained the status of a master. As the chatter buzzed around him, another student approached, equally astonished by the news. He questioned his friend, incredulous that the formidable demonic star, Chao Qian, had been unable to put up even a slight resistance against Lu Shang. Meanwhile, amidst the whispers and speculations, Lu Shang continued to eat his chicken leg, his gaze shifting between Chao Qian and Lian Jibei. He weighed his options, realizing that engaging in a public confrontation could jeopardize his family's safety and potentially turn him into a fugitive. With a steely resolve, he decided to bide his time, knowing that his moment would soon come. Later, Chao Qian and Lian Jibei retreated to the restroom, which also served as a martial arts gymnasium. Lien Jibei sought an explanation from Qian in the presence of all the students from Jidao Academy. Kukong, bowing his head, offered his apologies to Lien Jibei, expressing his shock at Lu Shang's sudden attack. Lien Jibei remained silent, his gaze fixed on the ground. In an attempt to salvage the situation, Qian explained that had he been given a moment to react, the outcome of the altercation would have been different. Just then, Chao Qing entered the scene, his hands casually tucked into his pockets as he approached them. With a sly smile, he mocked Qian, branding him as useless, much to the surprise of the other students. Qian's fury ignited at Chao Qing's taunts. Turning towards him, he clenched his teeth tightly, demanding that Chao Qing repeat his words. With a determined stride, Qian approached Chao Qing, seizing him by the collar and locking eyes with him, vowing to exact revenge. Chao Qing, unfazed, made no attempt to defend himself. Instead, he maintained his casual demeanor, hands still in his pockets, as he stared back at Qian. With a cutting remark, he accused Qian of being beaten and now seeking revenge on his own comrades, further fueling the tension between them. Just before the fight was set to begin, Lien Jibei intervened, his authoritative voice cutting through the tension. Lien Jibei approached them, his demeanor stern as he ordered Qian to resolve the issue himself, emphasizing the shame Qian had brought upon the extreme martial arts gym. With a swift command, Lien Jibei withdrew from the scene, leaving Qian to contemplate his actions. Feeling the weight of Lien Jibei's disappointment, Qian bowed his head in remorse. He assured Lien Jibei that he would not repeat the same mistake again, determined to redeem himself in the eyes of his mentor. Once the room emptied of spectators, Qian's suppressed rage erupted. With an aggressive glare, he directed his fury towards the ground, clenching his fists tightly. In a burst of anger, he stomped forcefully, shattering the ground beneath him. With gritted teeth, he vowed to exact revenge on Lu Shang, swearing to make him pay with his life. An hour later, the stadium filled with eager spectators, anticipation palpable in the air. Lu Shang met with Zhao and other teachers, receiving words of caution and advice. Zhao, hands behind his back, emphasized the formidable reputation of the Extreme Path Twins in the National Martial Arts Championship. He warned Lu Shang not to underestimate their skills, despite any previous advantages he may have had. Lu Shang, unfazed, acknowledged Zhao's words with a confident smile, assuring him that he understood the gravity of the situation. With a casual demeanor, Lu Shang bid farewell and made his way towards the ring, his hands tucked into his pockets. The spectators watched in silence as he departed, his calm demeanor unnerving some. Meanwhile, a man wearing a hood reassured the others that Lu Shang's composure indicated no cause for concern. A man in glasses turned to Zhao, expressing confidence that the trophy would be theirs this time. Across the room, a girl closed her eyes, a serene smile gracing her lips, seemingly at peace with the unfolding events. As Vice Dean Zhao observed Lu Shang's departure, he remained silent, his thoughts drifting towards the impending confrontation between Lu Shang and Saint Tanzhongyu. With a slight tilt of his head and closed eyes, Zhao pondered the strategies Lu Shang might employ in such a situation. Meanwhile, the draw for the 8th round of fights commenced, with Jiang He bringing forth the drawing box. Lu Shang stepped forward, inserting his hand into the box to retrieve his opponent's ticket. Upon examining the ticket, a smile graced Lu Shang's lips, hinting at his confidence in the upcoming bout. Jiang He, holding the microphone with one hand, raised the other to announce the final match of the 8th round. The tension in the arena heightened as he revealed that the contenders were the Saint from the continent of 7 Saints and Chao Qian from the Extreme Path Academy. Holding his ticket in hand, Lu Shang remained composed, his silence adding an air of mystery to the situation. The announcement left the audience somewhat perplexed, with murmurs rippling through the crowd. A man with long hair expressed disbelief to his friend, questioning if the organizers had intentionally orchestrated the matchup. Another, with blue hair, recognized the significance of the confrontation, labeling it as a true rivalry. A student recalled Lu Shang's swift victory over Qian earlier that morning, assuming the outcome of the upcoming fight was already decided. However, his friend offered a counterargument, suggesting that Lu Shang's surprise attack on Qian might not accurately predict the outcome of a fair fight. As Lu Shang awaited the commencement of the fights, his attention was drawn to an approaching figure. Turning to face the newcomer, he was met with the intense gaze of none other than Chao Qian. With clenched teeth and fists, Qian issued a menacing warning to Lu Shang, declaring his intent to vanquish him in combat. Lu Shang's demeanor remained composed as he responded to Chao Qian's threats by mockingly placing his hand under his chin. He continued to taunt Qian, staring him down and even making a throat-cutting gesture. Qian, already seething with rage, clenched his fists tightly, vowing to end Lu Shang's life then and there. However, their confrontation was interrupted by Zhang He, who commanded the attention of everyone present. He motioned for all participants in their battle to temporarily vacate the arena, signaling the imminent commencement of the first confrontation between Bai Hengchuan from Four Martial Saints University and Chao Qing from Jidao School. As the two fighters made their way to the ring, the director reminded Bai Hengchuan, the boy wearing the hood, to give his best effort regardless of the outcome. Bai Hengchuan responded with a resolute, "Understood," his fists clenched tightly as he approached the ring. He understood that Chao Qing was not to be underestimated, anticipating a challenging fight ahead. Noticing Bai Hengchuan approach, Lu Shang offered him a reassuring smile, urging him not to worry. This unexpected display of concern surprised Bai Hengchuan, who couldn't comprehend why Lu Shang would be concerned about him. Despite his confusion, Bai Hengchuan couldn't deny the powerful aura emanating from Lu Shang's body. In response to Lu Shang's words, Bai Hengchuan felt a sense of determination wash over him. Upon hearing Lu Shang's unexpected concern, Bai Hengchuan was taken aback. He couldn't comprehend why Lu Shang, a fellow student from the same university, would express such sentiments towards him. With a gesture of farewell and gratitude, Bai Hengchuan waved his hand and thanked Lu Shang with a smile for his unexpected care. In response, Lu Shang reciprocated the gesture, closing his eyes and bidding farewell to Bai Hengchuan with a wave of his hand. He reassured Bai Hengchuan that there was no need for formalities or gratitude, emphasizing their shared university affiliation. With that, Bai Hengchuan confidently stepped into the ring, ready to face his opponent. Inside the ring awaited Chao Qing, arms crossed in anticipation of the impending battle. As Bai Hengchuan ascended the ring, the crowd erupted into cheers, showing their support for their respective contenders. With determination burning in his eyes, Bai Hengchuan locked his gaze onto Chao Qing, his body emanating a powerful energy as he prepared for the showdown. Despite the charged atmosphere, Bai Hengchuan let out a sigh, a hint of resignation in his demeanor. The two opponents stood motionless, their eyes locked in an intense stare-down as they awaited the commencement of the fight. Zhang He, the announcer, signaled that the battle was about to begin, further fueling the excitement of the audience. As the cheers grew louder, Chao Qing's aura became suffocating, exuding an intimidating presence. With a confident smile, he declared his determination not to give Bai Hengchuan any chance to surrender. With a deliberate motion, Bai Hengchuan unsheathed his sword, signaling his readiness to engage in combat. Gaining momentum, Bai Hengchuan swiftly advanced towards Chao Qing, wielding his sword with both hands. As he closed in, he issued a challenge, urging Chao Qing to prove himself. However, Chao Qing remained silent and composed, arms still crossed as he calmly assessed the situation. With a sudden movement, Bai Hengchuan launched an attack with his sword, but Chao Qing effortlessly dodged the strike, showcasing his agility and skill. Undeterred by the initial miss, Bai Hengchuan tightened his grip on the sword and lunged forward once again, his gaze fixed fiercely on Chao Qing as he closed the distance between them, ready to engage in combat. As Bai Hengchuan steadily closed the distance between them, Chao Qing remained unperturbed, standing his ground with an air of calm confidence. With a series of swift attacks, Bai Hengchuan unleashed a barrage of strikes against Chao Qing. But to his surprise, Chao Qing simply slipped his hands into his pockets and effortlessly dodged each blow as if it were child's play. Witnessing Chao Qing's incredible agility and evasion, the spectators were awestruck. A boy with blue hair turned to his friend in disbelief, questioning if Chao Qing had truly attained such a level of skill. His friend, speechless at the display, explained that only those nearing mastery could achieve such feats, finding the realization daunting. Meanwhile, Bai Hengchuan's frustration grew as he struggled to land a hit on Chao Qing. With determination burning within him, Bai Hengchuan tapped into his ice elemental abilities, his body emitting a chilling energy as he prepared for his next move. Gripping his sword tightly with both hands, he issued a challenge to Chao Qing, daring him to dodge the upcoming attack. With a deep breath, Bai Hengchuan focused his gaze on Chao Qing, positioning himself to drive his sword forcefully into the ground. Using his sealing ability known as Extreme Ice, Bai Hengchuan manipulated the sword to conjure an icicle that surged towards Chao Qing with deadly precision. As the icicle struck Chao Qing, piercing his body, Bai Hengchuan watched in surprise, unsure if his plan had succeeded. However, upon closer inspection, he realized that Chao Qing's body had vanished, leaving behind only a pile of dust. Shock and terror washed over by Heng Chuan as he realized he had fallen for Chao Qing's diversion. Suddenly, Chao Qing reappeared before him, summoning spectral spirits to assail him. Racked with pain from the attack, Bai Heng Chuan found himself defenseless as Chao Qing approached, taunting him for falling into his trap and questioning his abilities. As Bai Heng Chuan writhed in agony from the pain inflicted by Chao Qing's attack, Chao Qing gazed at him intently, a smile playing on his lips. With the dagger in hand, Chao Qing launched another assault, the blade pulsating with powerful energy as it pierced Bai Heng Chuan's ribs. The impact of the attack sent Bai Heng Chuan hurtling backward, his body crashing outside the ring and onto the ground below. As Bai Heng Chuan lay injured on the ground, blood oozing from his mouth, concerned bystanders and medical personnel rushed to his aid. Two men approached him, helping him sit down, their expressions grave as they assessed his injuries. One of the men, staring intently at Bai Heng Chuan, informed his companion of the severity of the injuries, 4 broken ribs and fractures in his limbs, leaving the other man visibly shocked. Meanwhile, Chao Qing, with arms crossed, observed the scene with a hint of satisfaction, remarking to himself that it was a waste. Confused by Chao Qing's cryptic statement, the two men exchanged puzzled glances. Suddenly, Lu Shang appeared on the scene, his hands casually tucked into his pockets as he approached. Upon seeing Bai Heng Chuan's condition, Chao Qing's gaze shifted towards him, a smile still lingering on his lips. He commented that it was now Lu Shang's turn to face him. Approaching Chao Qing, Lu Shang placed a hand on his shoulder, his posture relaxed as he lowered his body slightly to meet Chao Qing's gaze. With a smile, Lu Shang expressed gratitude for Chao Qing's efforts, but added a note of pity. Bai Heng Chuan, hearing Lu Shang's voice, raised his head slightly, blood still dripping from his mouth as he clenched his teeth in pain. Confusion flickered in his eyes as he wondered about the exchange between Lu Shang and Chao Qing. With a surge of energy, Lu Shang's demeanor shifted, his gaze intense as he stared at Chao Qing. He remarked that it was a pity Chao Qing hadn't sustained more injuries in the fight, as it would have given Lu Shang a reason to exact revenge. Meanwhile, Jiang He, the announcer, drew everyone's attention as he announced the commencement of the next round between Jang Ju from the Chaoyuan Martial School and Peng Hong from the Fire Dragon Martial School. With anticipation building, Jang Ju entered the ring, her demeanor calm as she closed her eyes and entered a meditative state. Intrigued by Jang Ju's serene composure, Peng Hong watched her intently, his fists clenched tightly as he assessed her. He couldn't help but wonder if there was more to her than met the eye, sensing a potential threat lurking beneath her tranquil exterior. Suddenly, Jang Ju's eyes snapped open, her body enveloped in a radiant aura of energy. With a determined expression, she extended her hands towards Peng Hong, conjuring ethereal hands of spiritual energy that surged towards him with startling speed. Caught off guard by Jang Ju's display of power, Peng Hong felt a mixture of confusion and surprise wash over him. As the spectral hands closed in on him, he hesitated, questioning if Jang Ju possessed psychic abilities. Refusing to be passive, Peng Hong shifted into an offensive stance, channeling his own golden spiritual energy into his fists. With a confident smile, he challenged Jang Ju to witness his formidable technique, striking out at the approaching spectral hands with all his might. However, to his astonishment, his attack yielded no effect. Despite his best efforts, the hands of spiritual energy remained unscathed, leaving Peng Hong bewildered and frustrated. As the spiritual hand of Jang Ju slowly closed in on Peng Hong, he was overwhelmed with shock and confusion. He couldn't comprehend why his attack had failed to deter Jang Ju's spiritual prowess. With each passing second, the spectral hands ensnared his body, tightening their grip and inflicting excruciating pain upon him. In agony, Peng Hong cried out, feeling as though his body was on the verge of breaking under the strain. Summoning his last reserves of strength, Peng Hong turned his gaze towards Jang Ju, his eyes pleading for mercy as he surrendered to her overwhelming power. Sensing his plea, Jang Ju deactivated her ability, lowering her head and sighing wearily. The referee, taken aback by the sudden turn of events, raised his hand and declared Jang Ju from the Chaoyuan Martial Arts School as the victor of the match. Around the ring, spectators watched in astonishment, marveling at Jang Ju's formidable martial arts prowess. One observer speculated that Jang Ju's psychic energy indicated she was at least a level 4 psychic mentalist, a testament to her incredible skill. Another student remarked on the vast disparity between Jang Ju and Peng Hong, noting that despite Peng Hong's formidable iron-forged strength, it wouldn't hold up against Jang Ju's superior abilities. Meanwhile, as Lu Shang observed Jang Ju from the sidelines, a smile played on his lips as he assessed her psychic power. He couldn't help but compare her abilities to his own, realizing that she held a 2-point advantage over him in terms of psychic prowess. Caught off guard by Jang Ju's sudden departure, Lu Shang watched as she turned her back and fled from the scene. Confusion clouded his mind as he pondered her reaction, finding parallels between her behavior and that of Xia Lin's tendency to flee upon encountering him. He questioned whether his demeanor appeared too menacing, prompting others to retreat in fear. As the anticipation in the arena reached its peak, Jiang He, the announcer, stepped forward to address the crowd. He declared that the final round of the tournament was about to commence, piquing the interest of all those in attendance. The spotlight fell on the two contenders, Chao Qian from Jidao Martial School and Lu Shang from St. Martial 7th University. Chao Qian, emanating a palpable aura of aggression, made his way through the throngs of spectators, his gaze fixed firmly on Lu Shang. With determined steps, he approached the ring, ready to face his opponent. Meanwhile, Lu Shang, unfazed and composed, also moved towards the ring, his hands casually tucked into his pockets. The spectators anticipated a thrilling showdown, expecting this final bout to deliver the excitement that had been lacking in the previous matches. As Lu Shang ascended the ring, he met Chao Qian's gaze, a silent acknowledgement of the impending confrontation. Once both fighters were in the ring, Chao Qian broke the tense silence by extending his hand towards Lu Shang, invoking rule number 32 of the National Martial Arts Championship. This rule stipulated that if a fighter were to kill their opponent under reasonable circumstances during the competition, they would not be held accountable. Chao Qian's declaration sent a shiver down Lu Shang's spine, his expression morphing into one of concern. He understood the gravity of Chao Qian's words and the potential danger they posed. However, undeterred by the implicit threat, Lu Shang met Chao Qian's gaze squarely, acknowledging the challenge laid before him. Sensing the tension between the two fighters, the referee wisely distanced himself, ensuring his own safety as the match began. With the signal given by Jiang He, the round officially commenced, prompting Lu Shang to begin his warm-up routine. Closing his eyes briefly, Lu Shang wore a confident smile as he addressed Chao Qian. He recognized that his opponent had not accepted their previous encounter's outcome, hence his decision to afford Chao Qian ample time to prepare. Encouraging his adversary to give his all, Lu Shang conveyed his readiness to face whatever challenge Chao Qian would present. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation as the final showdown between these formidable opponents unfolded, promising a riveting climax to the tournament. As Chao Qian's threatening words echoed through the arena, a surge of intense energy began to radiate from his body, enveloping him in a menacing aura. With a fierce gaze fixed upon Lu Shang, he clenched his fists tightly, promising repercussions. His determination was palpable as he extended his arms outward, channeling his inner power into a formidable force that seemed to transform the very air around him. Lu Shang, on the other hand, remained composed yet cautious. Sensing the impending surge of energy, he instinctively raised a hand to shield his face, bracing himself for the impact. His expression betrayed a mixture of anticipation and readiness, knowing that he was about to face a formidable opponent. Chao Qian's transformation was a spectacle to behold, sending shockwaves through the spectators as his body started to emit an ominous energy, engulfing the arena. The glow emanating from him captivated everyone's attention, leaving them bewildered and curious about the unfolding spectacle. As the energy surged around him, Chao Qian turned his gaze towards Lu Shang, his eyes gleaming with a mix of malice and anticipation. With a chilling smirk, he assured Lu Shang that there was more to come, hinting at the depths of his power. With a profound mastery over his abilities, Chao Qian tapped into the transformation ability, triggering a remarkable metamorphosis. His once normal physique began to morph, muscles bulging, skin pulsating with dark energy. It was as if an otherworldly force was taking hold of him. The ground trembled beneath his feet as his body underwent a startling change, tearing apart his clothing in the process. His hair turned a stark white, adding to the eerie aura surrounding him. In mere moments, Chao Qian's transformation reached its zenith, unveiling a monstrous form that sent shivers down the spines of those present. With long white hair flowing around him, demonic horns protruding from his forehead, and sharp claws adorning his fingers, he appeared like a creature from the darkest recesses of nightmares. The center of his chest pulsed with an intense, malevolent energy, marking the culmination of his sinister evolution. The sheer terror and awe that gripped the audience were palpable. Whispers spread like wildfire among the spectators, each one grappling with the magnitude of Chao Qian's newfound power. Some could hardly believe their eyes, questioning the nature of the technique he had unleashed. Others recognized it for what it was, the culmination of Chao Qian's journey into the depths of extreme martial arts. Among the spectators, Jang Ju found herself transfixed by the sight before her, a mixture of astonishment and fear coursing through her veins. There was something unnerving about the power emanating from Chao Qian, something primal and unsettling. It was a force that seemed to defy explanation, stirring a sense of dread deep within her. As Zhao and the other teachers observed the fight, they were left utterly speechless by the sight of Chao Qian's body emitting such a formidable aura. It was a sight that struck fear into the hearts of those witnessing it. Zhao, who stood with both hands resting on the balcony, was particularly terrified. He couldn't comprehend how Chao Qian could emanate an aura akin to that of a master. The realization dawned on him that Lu Shang was in grave danger. As the potent aura of Chao Qian washed over Lu Shang's body, he too was rendered speechless. He gazed at Chao Qian, his mind racing with thoughts. It was a fascinating yet perilous situation. Lu Shang realized that Chao Qian's power now surpassed that of an ordinary semi-master by at least fourfold. The realization sent a chill down his spine. He couldn't help but wonder if something had fundamentally changed within him, if he had somehow mutated. With a drastic change in expression, Lu Shang's body began to emit its own powerful energy. He locked eyes with Chao Qian, silently assessing the situation. Meanwhile, Lin Jibei sat calmly on a chair, crossing his arms and wearing a knowing smile. He explained to the onlookers that what they were witnessing was the true power of the extreme school. He emphasized that now, they would witness firsthand the essence of extremity. As Chao Qing stood with his arms behind his back, his gaze fixed on Lu Shang, it was evident that even he was intrigued by the unfolding events. Chao Qing's confident smile indicated his anticipation of the unfolding events as he observed Jang Ju's apprehension. His demeanor suggested a sense of assurance, believing that it was now his turn to shine in the spotlight. Meanwhile, Chao Qian exuded an overwhelming aura, his eyes fixed on Lu Shang with an intensity that promised a fierce confrontation. With a smile, he urged Lu Shang not to entertain thoughts of surrender. As Chao Qian advanced towards him, the ground shattered beneath his forceful step, signaling his readiness to engage. Despite the impending attack, Lu Shang remained composed, casually placing his hands in his pockets, seemingly unfazed by the impending threat. Chao Qian's approach was marked by a menacing smile, a clear warning against any notion of capitulation, as he unleashed a barrage of strikes infused with martial prowess. The technique he employed, known as the martial artist's path extreme magic, manifested as bursts of energy emanating from his fists, hurtling towards Lu Shang with formidable force. In the face of Chao Qian's staggering display of power, Lu Shang maintained his composure, his gaze fixed on the ground, unmoving and seemingly unaffected by the impending onslaught. The spectators, stunned into silence by the sheer intensity of Chao Qian's abilities, watched in awe as the confrontation unfolded. Meanwhile, Zhang He, ever vigilant, called upon the other masters to remain prepared for any unexpected turn of events. His authoritative command echoed through the arena, urging everyone to stay alert. In response, a man clad in a black suit and glasses nodded in understanding, acknowledging the seriousness of the situation. While the tension mounted, Chao Qian, with a sinister smile on his face, taunted Lu Shang, urging him not to meet his demise too easily. With swift and brutal force, Chao Qian lunged at Lu Shang, striking him squarely in the chest. The impact of Chao Qian's blow was staggering, sending shockwaves rippling through the arena. Lu Shang, caught off guard by the ferocity of the attack, involuntarily withdrew his hands from his pockets. The sheer power behind Chao Qian's strike created a violent explosion, painting the sky a fiery red and engulfing the surroundings in a curtain of smoke. As the smoke began to clear, the onlookers were met with a stunning sight. Lu Shang, bathed in a radiant golden aura, stood firm amidst the chaos. His body emanated an otherworldly energy, a stark contrast to the devastation around him. The spectators, including Lin Jibei and Chao Qing, could hardly believe their eyes, astonished by the unexpected turn of events. Despite Chao Qian's relentless assault, Lu Shang remained unperturbed, his gaze fixed upon the ground beneath him. His calm demeanor and enigmatic smile hinted at a deeper understanding of the situation. Even as Chao Qian's hand reached out to strike him once more, it became evident that something extraordinary was unfolding. The clash of energies between Chao Qian and Lu Shang created a mesmerizing spectacle, as their opposing forces collided and intermingled. Yet, Despite Chao Qian's best efforts, his hand never made contact with Lu Sheng's body. The potent golden aura surrounding Lu Sheng acted as an impenetrable barrier, thwarting Chao Qian's advances and leaving him frustrated and bewildered. As Lu Sheng raised his head, a subtle smirk played on his lips, indicating a sense of confidence despite the intense battle unfolding before him. His question to Chao Qian, whether this was the end and if there were more powerful techniques yet to be unleashed, hinted at his anticipation for greater challenges. Meanwhile, Chao Qian, facing Lu Sheng's gaze, couldn't hide the fear creeping into his eyes. The mere thought of confronting Lu Sheng with no more tricks up his sleeve made him tremble with apprehension. With a strategic retreat, Chao Qian attempted to put some distance between himself and Lu Sheng, hoping to gather his thoughts and devise a new plan. But Lu Sheng, undeterred by Chao Qian's retreat, began to advance steadily, his fist tightly clenched, signifying his readiness to continue the fight. Chao Qian's repeated retreats hinted at his growing sense of unease and vulnerability in the face of Lu Sheng's relentless pursuit. As Lu Sheng closed in on Chao Qian, the atmosphere crackled with tension, and Chao Qian's fear became palpable. The mention of Luan and star explosion evoked a sense of impending doom, as Lu Sheng's impending strike loomed over Chao Qian like a looming catastrophe. The intensity of Lu Sheng's attack was conveyed through the description of his fist emitting golden energy, creating immense pressure that seemed to bear down on Chao Qian with irresistible force. With a thunderous impact, Lu Sheng's fist collided with Chao Qian's, unleashing a powerful explosion that reverberated throughout the ring. The aftermath left both spectators and participants stunned, with even Lin Jibei and Chao Qing rendered speechless by the sheer magnitude of the explosion. The sight of Chao Qian falling to his knees, blood trickling from various wounds, underscored the devastating effect of Lu Sheng's blow, leaving no doubt about the outcome of their confrontation. As Lin Jibei rushed towards the ring, his expression betrayed a mix of anger and frustration, perhaps realizing the extent of Lu Sheng's power and the implications it held for their future encounters. In just a blink of an eye, Lin Jibei dashed into the ring, his fist clenched tightly, ready to strike. But before he could unleash his attack, Lu Sheng, his opponent, questioned his audacity. Instead of evading, Lu Sheng simply gazed downward, a silent, motionless figure. Meanwhile, Zhao and the other teachers swiftly closed in on Lin Jibei, sensing the tension escalating. As Zhao and the others closed in, just as Lin Jibei prepared to strike, Zhao and the teachers intervened, attempting to halt his assault. Despite their interference, Lin Jibei managed to react in time, blocking the impending attack. Quickly, Zhao and Lin Jibei disengaged and landed within the ring's confines, near Chao Qian. With an aggressive demeanor, Zhao removed his glasses and confronted Lin Jibei, demanding an explanation for his actions. The other teachers, mirroring Zhao's intensity, fixed their gazes on Lin Jibei, adding to the pressure mounting on him. Jiang He, one of the teachers, rose to his feet and extended a hand toward Lin Jibei, urging him to cease his aggression. He reminded Lin Jibei that everyone present was a master in their own right and questioned whether Lin Jibei wished to make a spectacle of himself. Faced with the collective disapproval of the teachers, Lin Jibei relented, approaching Chao Qian, who had collapsed to the ground. As Chao Qian lay there, clutching his chest and coughing, Lin Jibei's surprise was evident. He swiftly ordered the doctors to attend to Chao Qian, prompting 2 nurses to rush forward with a stretcher. In the midst of the chaos, Lu Sheng, hidden behind Zhao, sought assistance. Zhao, extending a hand in a gesture of mediation, proposed letting the matter slide since Chao Qian had not succumbed to his injuries. He warned Lin Jibei not to escalate the situation further. Lin Jibei, however, turned his gaze toward them, his eyes glinting with malice. He reminded them not to forget the injustice they had inflicted upon him, his words dripping with bitterness and resentment. Jiang He, stepping into the ring, held up a microphone, closed his eyes, and extended his hand towards Lu Sheng. With a smile, he declared Lu Sheng the victor of the battle in the grand arena of the 7 Saints. Meanwhile, Lu Sheng, with his hands casually tucked into his pockets, began to smile in response to Jiang He's announcement. Observing the scene from the stands, one of the spectators turned to his friend and marveled at Lu Sheng's incredible strength. He recounted how even Chao Qian, in his heightened state of extreme transformation, couldn't land a blow on Lu Sheng. The spectator questioned his friend, asking if he too recognized Lu Sheng's mastery. However, his friend countered, noting that despite Lu Sheng's abilities, he still sought refuge behind Vice President Zhao during the confrontation. He argued that Lu Sheng's use of qi to deflect Chao Qian's attacks indicated that he hadn't yet ascended to the rank of master. As Lu Shang made his way towards the ring's exit, the spectator commented to his friend that Lu Shang's dominance in the competition was all but assured. He asserted that despite being merely 18 years old, Lu Shang was already a formidable force, almost like a monster in human form. His friend agreed, emphasizing that Lu Shang's strength surpassed that of an average master. He recalled how not even the renowned magic star could withstand a single blow from Lu Shang. Meanwhile, as Lu Shang ran his hand through his hair and casually slipped one hand into his pants pocket, he continued his departure from the ring. With his confident demeanor, it became evident that the era of the twin stars of Jidao had reached its conclusion. The mantle of dominance now fell upon Lu Shang, the Demon King, who would reign over the National Martial Arts Championship with unrivaled power. As Lu Shang sauntered toward the ring's exit, his hands casually tucked into his pants pockets, his attention was suddenly seized by Zhao's voice. Turning back, he halted his steps, acknowledging Zhao's presence. With his glasses back on, Zhao gestured with his hands, explaining to Lu Shang that injuries and fatalities incurred during the conference wouldn't be held against him. He assured Lu Shang that if any harm had been unintentional, he wouldn't face repercussions. Zhao emphasized that in the face of death, the blame lay solely on the individual's lack of strength. He reassured Lu Shang that the university would provide support to help him withstand the pressure of the day's events. Furthermore, Zhao reminded Lu Shang that the Jidao Martial Saint wasn't the only rank 9 martial saint in existence. As Zhao conveyed these words to Lu Shang, the other teachers remained silent, observing the exchange. Lu Shang, with a heavy heart, lowered his gaze to the ground, his expression one of confusion and resignation. He sighed softly, acknowledging Zhao's reassurances but still feeling the weight of the impending battle. Zhao, touching his glasses thoughtfully, shifted his gaze downward, contemplating the complexities of bravery in the face of true mastery. He recognized Lu Shang's undeniable talent, but understood the difficulty of asking someone so gifted to confront their fears head-on. Turning his attention back to Lu Shang, Zhao sighed, feeling a sense of regret that mere exceptionalism wasn't enough to ascend to the status of martial saint. He couldn't help but feel that this limitation was a disservice to Lu Shang's potential. Meanwhile, as Lu Shang continued to stand with one hand in his pocket, his gaze fixed on the ground, he couldn't suppress a feeling of satisfaction deep within. Despite the weight of the situation, he couldn't deny the brilliance of his performance, strategically positioning himself behind Vice Principal Zhao. In his mind, his ability to navigate the situation with such finesse deserved commendation and recognition. As Lu Shang found himself lost in his thoughts, a sudden, oppressive energy enveloped him, jolting him back to the present. He turned his head to find the nurses maneuvering the stretcher with Chao Qian's injured body. However, the source of the suffocating energy wasn't the nurses. It emanated from Lin Jibei, whose furious gaze was fixed on the ground. Frustrated by his failure to defeat Lu Shang, Lin Jibei harbored thoughts of revenge, envisioning Lu Shang's demise at his hands. He imagined Lin Jibei awakening to laugh while lying in his own coffin, consumed by his anger and determination. Meanwhile, all the remaining fighters ascended into the ring as the 9th round of semifinals, known as the draw phase, was about to commence. Among them were Lu Shang, Jang Ju, and another fighter, Deng Rue, a 30-year-old from Heaven and Earth Martial School. Deng Rue, with his hand propped under his chin, gazed ahead with a bewildered expression, reflecting on how he had unexpectedly advanced to the semifinals. He realized that his progress had been largely due to luck and felt a growing sense of unease, doubting his ability to defeat any of his formidable opponents. He silently prayed for protection, fearing the prospect of facing them in combat. Meanwhile, Lu Shang stood motionless with his hands still in his pockets, exuding an air of calm and composure. Jang Ju, on the other hand, clasped her hands together, her cheeks flushing as she glanced at Lu Shang with a mix of admiration and bashfulness. As Deng Rue approached the stage, he couldn't shake off the feeling that Chao Qing was a madman, and Lu Shang was the most terrifying and enigmatic opponent he could face. Trembling with fear, Deng Rue closed his eyes, his mind consumed by thoughts of the impending battles. In contrast, Zhang Ju appeared to him as the only normal opponent, and he harbored a desire to face her in combat, perhaps viewing her as a comparatively less daunting adversary. As the moment of drawing opponents arrived, Deng Rue made an unexpected decision. Instead of opting to fight against the formidable duo of Lu Shang and Chao Qing, he turned his attention towards Zhang Ju. With admiration evident in his eyes, Deng Rue admired not only Zhang Ju's physical beauty but also her gentle demeanor and considerate nature. He observed how she attacked with minimal force and maintained a polite demeanor, even apologizing if she inadvertently struck her opponent too hard. To Deng Rue, Jang Ju embodied an angel with flawless martial arts skills. Approaching the draw box, Deng Rue hesitated momentarily before placing his hand inside. With his other hand propped under his chin, he anxiously waited for the outcome. Retrieving a piece of paper from the box, Deng Rue's heart raced as he slowly unfolded it, revealing his opponent. Despite his trepidation, Deng Rue found solace in his intelligence and luck, knowing that he possessed qualities that could potentially offset his opponent's overwhelming strength. Meanwhile, as Chao Qing stepped forward to make his selection, he cast a disdainful glance towards Deng Rue. With a confident demeanor, he reached into the draw box, pulling out his opponent's name. However, upon seeing the name written on the paper, Chao Qing couldn't conceal his fear. Lost in his thoughts, he was suddenly jolted by a touch on his shoulder. Turning to face Lu Shang, Chao Qing found himself sweating profusely as Lu Shang reassured him not to worry and suggested securing a reliable insurance policy. With a smile, Lu Shang recommended an insurance company, emphasizing its reliability by recounting how quickly they had compensated a friend's family after his passing. Chao Qing's expression visibly shifted as he swallowed hard, his gaze fixed downward with a mixture of fear and apprehension. The mention of insurance payments served as a stark reminder of the dangers inherent in their profession, leaving Chao Qing even more unnerved than before. Chao Qing's reaction was swift as he forcefully pushed Lu Shang's hand away from his shoulder. With a palpable sense of unease, Chao Qing found himself confronted by Lu Shang's intense gaze, coupled with an aura that seemed to suffocate the air around them. Sensing Chao Qing's apprehension, Lu Shang, still with one hand in his pocket, extended the other with a disarming smile, assuring Chao Qing that he was merely jesting. He playfully warned Chao Qing that if he were to harm him, the grandmaster of the Ji Dao martial arts school would seek retribution. Trembling with fear, Chao Qing crumpled the piece of paper in his hand, his eyes filled with dread as he confessed that he was willing to face the consequences of Lu Shang's knowledge. He even questioned whether Lu Shang deemed him as useless as Chao Qian. Lu Shang's smile widened at this inquiry, reassuring Chao Qing that he did not hold him in the same regard as Chao Qian. However, as Lu Shang began to approach Chao Qing, a change came over him. With his eyes fixed on the ground and an overwhelming aura emanating from his being, Lu Shang ominously revealed that Chao Qing was even worse than Chao Qian. With a wave of his hand, Lu Shang bid farewell, leaving Chao Qing stunned and speechless, his mind reeling from the encounter. Minutes later, amidst the cheers of the crowd, Chao Qing sought out Lian Jibei, who stood with his arms crossed, watching the events unfold in the ring. Whispering into Lian Jibei's ear, Chao Qing relayed the unsettling exchange with Lu Shang. Lian Jibei's expression darkened as fury flashed in his eyes. With clenched teeth, he vowed to make Lu Shang pay for his audacity, his determination unwavering as he plotted his revenge. As Lian Jibei stood with his arms folded and Chao Qing whispered in his ear, Lu Shang calmly turned his back on them, striding away with his hands in his pockets. With a slight glance back and a knowing smile, Lu Shang reflected on the effectiveness of their exchange. Despite the seemingly innocuous banter, it had successfully baited Lian Jibei into attempting to kill him. This, to Lu Shang, indicated that Lian Jibei had taken the bait, falling into his trap. Meanwhile, Lian Jibei's imposing presence exuded a powerful and suffocating energy as he fixated his gaze on Lu Shang's retreating figure. Sensing Lian Jibei's intense scrutiny, Lu Shang halted his steps, turning to face him. Despite maintaining a casual posture with his hands still in his pockets, Lu Shang's body began to emanate a potent and oppressive golden energy. In that intense moment of confrontation, Lu Shang contemplated his next move. He understood that if he wanted to eliminate Lian Jibei, he needed to do so in a manner that would garner support and legitimacy. He recognized the importance of being perceived as righteous and famous, as well as adhering to established rules and norms. However, he also acknowledged the limitations of relying solely on his own power to confront the consequences of his actions. Despite his desire to break free from societal constraints, he understood the necessity of working within the confines of the existing system. With a steely determination in his gaze, Lu Shang contemplated the notion of strength and authority. He believed that true strength lay in the ability to transcend rules, create new ones, and wield them as one pleased. To him, those who adhered strictly to societal norms were incapable of effecting meaningful change. If he desired to save humanity from impending disaster, he understood that he must continue to strive for greater strength and autonomy. With this resolve firmly in mind, Lu Shang knew that he had to redouble his efforts. Only by pushing himself beyond his current limits could he hope to achieve the power necessary to confront the challenges ahead. Several minutes later, the eagerly anticipated first match of the 9th round of the conference commenced between Jang Ju and Deng Rui. The two combatants engaged in a fierce battle that stretched on for over 10 minutes, with neither willing to concede defeat easily. Jang Ju, with her fingertips lightly touching, closed her eyes as her body began to emit a powerful blue energy, indicating her intense focus and concentration. On the other hand, Deng Rui, wiping sweat from his face with a cloth, sighed with relief as the match finally reached its conclusion. Despite the outcome, Deng Rui couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction at having upheld his dignity against such formidable opponents. Meanwhile, Jiang He, observing the proceedings, rose from his seat and directed his attention to Lu Shang, who awaited his turn to enter the ring. Expressing his concern to the other masters, Jiang He remarked on the balanced and calm nature of the preceding match but voiced apprehension about the potential for trouble in the upcoming bout. In the audience, two boys engaged in conversation about the match they had just witnessed. One boy, extending his hands in a gesture of assessment, remarked that while the fight had been worth watching, it lacked excitement. However, he eagerly anticipated the next match, recognizing its significance as it pitted Lu Shang against Chao Qing. He recounted the rumors of Lu Shang's brutal defeat of Chao Qian, whose back had allegedly been broken in the encounter. Had it not been for timely intervention, Chao Qian's life may have been lost. The other boy, adopting a more assertive stance, clenched his fist and emphasized that the twin stars of Jidao deserved such treatment. He criticized their annual tradition of ruthlessly defeating opponents, leaving them broken and humiliated, all while relying solely on the support of the Jidao martial school. As Chao Qing made his way toward the ring, a conversation between two boys nearby caught his attention. One of them asserted that evil people deserved punishment, insinuating that if Lu Shang were to defeat Chao Qing, he would render him incapable of even basic tasks like going to the bathroom. The other boy chuckled at this notion, suggesting that if Lu Shang disabled Chao Qing, he might as well be dubbed the crippled star. Caught in his own thoughts, Chao Qing couldn't shake off the growing sense of fear. As one of the twin stars of Jidao, he had never felt intimidated by anyone who wasn't a master. Yet, facing an opponent of the same age and skill level as himself, Chao Qing found himself gripped by an unfamiliar sense of dread. He halted his steps, his teeth clenched tightly as he questioned how he had become so afraid. However, before Chao Qing could dwell further on his apprehension, Lu Shang's voice pierced through his thoughts. With a confident smile, Lu Shang beckoned Chao Qing to snap out of his reverie and prepare to enter the ring to face the impending challenge. Hearing Lu Shang's voice, Chao Qing shook himself out of his trance, his determination flickering back to life. Turning towards Lu Shang, he met his gaze squarely, extending a hand to the side in a gesture of camaraderie. With a forced smile, Chao Qing suggested that it wasn't too late to opt for a more traditional weapon, hinting at a fairer fight. He also requested that Lu Shang refrain from divulging any mistreatment during their bout. In response, Lu Shang remained silent, his body emitting a powerful and oppressive golden energy. With a steely gaze, he fixed his eyes on Chao Qing, his expression turning deadly serious. He questioned Chao Qing's resolve, asking if he truly desired death. Feeling the weight of Lu Shang's intense stare, Chao Qing's demeanor shifted drastically, his earlier bravado replaced by a sense of unease. Chao Qing, determined not to show any signs of fear, met Lu Shang's gaze with a fierce glare. Despite his outward bravado, he inwardly doubted Lu Shang's strength, prompting him to urge Lu Shang to cease his pretense and enter the ring. Chao Qing's challenge to Lu Shang reflected his skepticism regarding Lu Shang's abilities. Eventually, the much-anticipated round between Lu Shang and K King commenced, and both contenders stepped into the ring. Lu Shang maintained a composed demeanor, casually placing his hands in his pockets and remaining silent as he observed Chao Qing's movements. Sensing Lu Shang's lack of initiative, Chao Qing pondered the nature of Lu Shang's impending attack. Opting for a defensive stance, Chao Qing braced himself, his body emanating a powerful purple energy as he prepared to evade any incoming assault. Minutes passed without any action from Lu Shang, leaving Chao Qing increasingly puzzled and frustrated. Clenching his teeth tightly, Chao Qing questioned why Lu Shang refrained from launching an attack. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to Chao Qing, Lu Shang remained stationary, his body gradually enveloped in a potent blue energy. Despite his seemingly passive stance, the aura emanating from Lu Shang filled the air with an ominous presence, unsettling Chao Qing. Perceiving no openings in Lu Shang's defense, Chao Qing abandoned his contemplations and swiftly transitioned to an offensive stance, his body radiating a golden energy. Determined not to be outdone, Chao Qing implored Lu Shang not to underestimate him. With a forceful stomp, Chao Qing propelled himself forward, employing a technique known as celestial speed to close the distance between himself and Lu Shang rapidly. Drawing his dagger with precision, Chao Qing unleashed the Gal Star stab technique, enveloping the blade in flames as he aimed the attack at Lu Shang. Despite the formidable display, Lu Shang remained unperturbed, maintaining his stance without flinching as the flaming dagger approached. As the dazzling light emitted by the dagger illuminated the arena, spectators shielded their eyes from its brilliance. Among them, Zhao and the other teachers stood in silence, captivated by the spectacle unfolding before them. Jiang He, observing from his seat, was taken aback by Chao Qing's attack, which conjured a dense smoke screen upon impact. Once the smoke dissipated, Chao Qing's silhouette emerged, poised to strike Lu Shang. However, to Chao Qing's surprise, Lu Shang was enveloped in a formidable golden energy barrier, rendering him impervious to the attack. Perplexed by this unexpected turn of events, Chao Qing observed as his dagger began to disintegrate before his eyes, shattered by the sheer power of Lu Shang's defense. Stunned by the sudden destruction of his splitting star dagger, Chao Qing struggled to comprehend the swiftness of Lu Shang's response. Lu Shang, appearing beside him with nonchalance, apologized mockingly for the dagger's demise, taunting Chao Qing for his sluggishness. Startled by Lu Shang's voice, Chao Qing turned towards him, only to find that Lu Shang had vanished once more. Lu Shang's body transformed into a blazing blue flame as he encircled Chao Qing, taunting him for his inability to keep pace. Despite Chao Qing's frantic attempts to detect Lu Shang's presence, he found himself outmaneuvered at every turn. Overwhelmed by Lu Shang's relentless teasing, Chao Qing's composure began to unravel, his mind consumed by panic as he struggled to comprehend the situation. Desperate and disoriented, Chao Qing's sanity wavered, and he succumbed to the overwhelming pressure. Clutching his ears in a futile attempt to block out the taunts, he collapsed to his knees, defeated by the psychological warfare waged by Lu Shang. Chao Qing's abrupt descent to his knees signaled a stark shift in his demeanor, his expression contorted with desperation as he grappled with the overwhelming situation. With his mind racing and his options dwindling, Chao Qing found himself at a loss for what to do next. As Chao Qing wrestled with his thoughts, Lu Shang approached him from behind, seizing him by the collar of his shirt with a firm grip. Lifted off the ground by Lu Shang's commanding hold, Chao Qing's panic surged, his fear palpable as he turned to face his assailant. Lu Shang, wearing a smirk, taunted Chao Qing, questioning if his intention was to amuse him. Chao Qing's terror intensified upon hearing Lu Shang's voice, his dread mounting with each passing moment. Despite Chao Qing's attempt to muster his strength by invoking the extreme wind technique, manifesting a vibrant green aura, Lu Shang remained unfazed. With one hand still clutching Chao Qing's collar and the other casually tucked into his pocket, Lu Shang stood motionless, unaffected by Chao Qing's display of power. The strain of channeling the extreme wind drained Chao Qing's energy, beads of sweat forming on his brow as he turned his gaze towards Lu En, his frustration evident. Through gritted teeth, Chao Qing unleashed the full force of the extreme wind, hoping to overwhelm Lu Shang with its power. However, to Chao Qing's dismay, his efforts proved futile as Lu Shang remained steadfast, his mocking gaze piercing through Chao Qing's facade. Dismissing Chao Qing's attack with disdain, Lu Shang sarcastically questioned the effectiveness of the extreme wind technique, revealing its ineffectiveness against his own resilience. With a final release of his grip on Chao Qing's collar, Lu Shang let him fall to the ground, the weight of defeat heavy upon him. As Chao Qing hit the ground, the effects of his extreme wind technique slowly dissipated. His frustration mounted as he realized that his formidable skill had failed to leave even a scratch on Lu Shang. Clenching his teeth in anger, Chao Qing felt a surge of fury coursing through him, fueled by the humiliation of his defeat. Meanwhile, Lu Shang stood unperturbed, his hands casually tucked into his pockets. With a calculated move, he vanished once more, his form engulfed in azure flames. Determined to showcase the true extent of his power, Lu Shang decided to demonstrate the might of the wind to Chao Qing. As Lu Shang disappeared from view, Chao Qing's panic intensified. He swiveled his head in search of his elusive opponent, his senses on high alert for any sign of movement. Suddenly, a noise caught his attention, and he whipped around to pinpoint its source, his mind racing with uncertainty. Unseen to Chao Qing, Lu Shang darted around him with astonishing speed, leaving a trail of illusions in his wake. The spectators, bewildered by the spectacle unfolding before them, exchanged astonished glances. A girl among them questioned whether what they were witnessing was mere trickery, while a man in a purple hoodie marveled at the extraordinary display. Lu Shang's rapid movements created hundreds of illusions, disorienting Chao Qing and leaving him bewildered. Mocking his opponent, Lu Shang challenged him to try and locate the real him among the multitude of phantoms. Caught in a whirlwind of confusion, Chao Qing frantically scanned his surroundings, trying to discern the true whereabouts of his adversary. With each passing moment, his anxiety grew, and he struggled to make sense of the surreal spectacle unfolding before him. Suddenly, Lu Shang materialized behind Chao Qing, his presence a stark contrast to the illusory duplicates surrounding them. With a sly grin, Lu Shang taunted Chao Qing to attempt to touch him, knowing full well the futility of his opponent's efforts. Startled by Lu Shang's sudden appearance, Chao Qing whirled around, only to find himself face-to-face with his adversary once more. Surrounded by a pulsating blue aura, Lu Shang issued a simple challenge. If Chao Qing could lay a hand on him, victory would be his. When Chao Qing heard Lu Shang's voice beside him, a shiver ran down his spine. He felt the beads of sweat forming on his forehead, and panic began to grip him tightly. Meanwhile, Zhao, observing from the railing, was utterly astonished by Lu Shang's abilities. He realized that what Lu Shang was displaying was not merely residual illusion but something far more terrifying. A visual retention technique where the memory of the visual signal hadn't faded yet. This meant that Lu Shang could create multiple illusions simultaneously, which was unprecedented. As Chao Qing's body emanated a blue aura, he drew his dagger with determination, his teeth clenched tightly together. Swinging the blade in all directions, he attempted to discern the real Lu Shang from the illusions. Despite his confidence in finding the true one, he soon realized that all the illusions were false, challenging his perception of reality. With each swing of his dagger, he hoped to strike the real Lu Shang, but the task proved daunting. In the midst of Chao Qing's frantic search, Lu Shang's voice diverted his attention. Turning his head, Chao Qing found himself questioning which of the illusions was genuine. His mind clouded with uncertainty. And in that moment of distraction, Lu Shang exploited the opening. With lightning speed, he materialized behind Chao Qing, his hands reaching out towards him. Then came the revelation of Lu Shang's true power, the sacred wind of the new moon. Before Chao Qing could react, he found himself caught in a whirlwind of devastation. In an instant, Lu Shang's attack shattered Chao Qing's body, breaking his neck, arms, legs, and rendering him helpless. As Chao Qing's body crumpled to the ground, Lu Shang remained poised, his hands still in his pocket, a cold and calculated demeanor etched on his face. Within seconds, Chao Qing lay motionless on the ground, his limbs contorted, his jaw broken. It was a stark reminder of Lu Shang's formidable strength and his ruthless efficiency in combat. Lu Shang's departure from the ring marked the end of a brutal confrontation with Chao Qing, leaving the latter battered and broken. As Lu Shang walked away, he couldn't resist a taunt, suggesting that Chao Qing's injuries now put him on par with Bai Hengchuan, a testament to the severity of the beating he had received. Chao Qing, in agony and with little strength left, could only scream in pain as the referee approached his fallen body. Meanwhile, Lu Shang, seemingly unfazed by the violence he had just inflicted, calmly made his way towards the exit of the ring, hands casually tucked into his pants pockets. His demeanor exuded a sense of confidence and control, leaving no doubt in the spectators' minds about his dominance in the martial arts arena. In the stands, two boys observed the aftermath of the match, one with blue hair and the other with brown. The blue-haired boy expressed awe at Lu Shang's overwhelming power, while his brown-haired companion pondered who among his peers could possibly challenge such strength. Their attention then shifted to Jang Ju, who sat nervously nearby, her fists clenched in anxiety. When Jiang He, the announcer, stepped into the ring to declare the next match between Lu Shang and Jang Ju, the tension in the air was palpable. However, before Jiang He could even finish speaking, Jang Ju surprised everyone by raising her hand and announcing her withdrawal from the fight. Her unexpected decision left the crowd in shock, prompting speculation and confusion among spectators. Zhang Ju's abrupt departure from the ring raised questions about her motives and intentions. With her hand raised towards the sky and a nervous expression on her face, she offered no further explanation for her sudden decision to forfeit the match. The spectators, bewildered by her actions, could only speculate about the reasons behind her withdrawal. The scene was a stark contrast to the fierce battles that had unfolded earlier in the ring. as Jang Ju's unexpected withdrawal introduced a new layer of mystery and intrigue to the ongoing martial arts competition. Zhang He's confusion was palpable as he held the microphone, trying to process Jang Ju's unexpected decision. He scratched his head, a visible sign of his perplexity, while the audience waited in anticipation. Meanwhile, Lu Shang, with his hands on his hips, observed Jang Ju's retreat without saying a word. His silence added to the intrigue of the moment, leaving Jiang He and the spectators curious about his thoughts. As Jang Ju fled from Lu Shang's gaze, her panic was evident. She didn't hesitate, her instinct urging her to escape from what she perceived as a malevolent presence. To her, Lu Shang's aura felt suffocating, akin to darkness personified. In her mind, he resembled a predatory beast lurking in the shadows, a force she couldn't confront without risking her sanity. In contrast, Bai Hengchuan watched Lu Shang with amusement, his smile widening as he remarked on the chaotic turn of events. He acknowledged the director's assessment of the situation with a nod, his expression reflecting a certain satisfaction at the unexpected turn of events. Meanwhile, Lu Shang's demeanor remained calm, his hands still in his pockets as he emitted a powerful golden aura. His gaze, though intense, carried a sense of assurance and victory. He seemed to accept the unfolding events with a sense of inevitability, confident in his superiority on the martial arts stage. The director, observing the scene, couldn't help but smile in agreement. Despite the unforeseen conclusion to the tournament, he recognized the undeniable dominance of Lu Shang. He felt a swell of pride for their martial arts university, knowing that even amidst chaos, they could hold their heads high. Half an hour later, Jiang He, regaining control of the situation, closed his eyes and coughed softly to capture the attention of the audience once more. Meanwhile, Lu Shang, unperturbed by the commotion, continued his departure from the ring, his hands still tucked casually in his pockets. Stepping down from the ring, Jiang He raised the microphone once more, his eyes closed in solemnity. With a gesture toward the sky, he announced the conclusion of the National Martial Arts Competition for university students. Jiang He stood at the center of the arena, his voice echoing through the space as he declared the end of the National Martial Arts Competition for university students. His words carried a sense of finality, marking the culmination of weeks of intense battles and displays of skill. Each participant had shown exceptional spirit and a unique style, contributing to the excitement and drama of the tournament. Meanwhile, in a room elsewhere, a girl with pink hair reached out towards the television, her eyes fixed on the screen where the competition was being broadcast live. Turning to her friend, she couldn't help but express her admiration for Lu Shang, noting how handsome he looked as he claimed victory in the tournament. Her friend, Yang Yuan, blushed at the mention of Lu Shang, quickly clarifying that he wasn't her boyfriend but just a friend. Back at Lu Shang's house, his sister erupted into celebration as she watched her brother's triumph on the TV screen. Jumping for joy, she proclaimed her brother as the best, basking in the pride of his accomplishment. His parents joined in the celebration, already planning to book a restaurant for a victory celebration with family and friends. Amidst the jubilation, King reminded them to wait for the awards ceremony. In another room, two girls watched the tournament with keen interest. The girl with green hair turned to her friend, Dandan, remarking on Lu Shang's impressive performance and high level of skill. Dandan blushed at the mention of Lu Shang, feeling a flutter of excitement at the thought of him. Despite knowing that Lu Shang might never read or respond to her messages, she found solace in being able to support him from afar. Throughout the city, fans of martial arts and admirers of Lu Shang alike were captivated by his victory, each celebrating in their own way. In the Eastern Military District, Qin Shaojuan's reaction to Lu Shang's performance in the tournament was a mix of awe and anticipation. As he watched Lu Shang's display of martial prowess, he couldn't help but feel impressed. Rising from his seat, he clenched his fists in excitement, acknowledging Lu Shang's incredible skills. Qin Shaojuan's mind raced with thoughts about the significance of this moment. He reflected on the impact Lu Shang's success would have on the second master, likely bringing him immense joy and pride. Sinking back into his chair, Qin Shaojun closed his eyes, a smile playing on his lips. He couldn't shake off the feeling that Lu Shang's triumph validated the sacrifices made, perhaps even the drop of essence he had contributed. This gesture, once symbolic, now seemed profoundly meaningful in light of Lu Shang's achievements. However, Dong Qingshue's response tempered Qin Shaojuan's enthusiasm. Sitting nearby, she offered a more grounded perspective. Contrary to Qin Shaojuan's optimism, Dong Qingxue suggested that Lu Shang's journey might not unfold as expected. She reminded him of Lu Shang's past commitments and the uncertain nature of his future plans. With a furrowed brow, Qin Xiaojun turned to Dong Qingxue, seeking clarification. He pressed her on what she meant by her cryptic remarks, prompting her to elaborate on Lu Shang's sense of obligation and the possibility of unforeseen circumstances altering his course. Dong Qingxue's words struck a chord with Qin Xiaojun, prompting him to consider the broader implications of Lu Shang's success. She drew attention to the looming influence of the Seven Saints and the martial Saint Tan Zhongyu's interest in Lu Shang. Dong Qingxue hinted at the likelihood of an official announcement regarding Lu Shang's future affiliation with the saints under Tan Zhongyu's guidance. As Qin Xiaojun grappled with this revelation, Dong Qingxue challenged his assumptions about surpassing the martial arts saint. Her pointed question forced Qin Xiaojun to confront his own aspirations and the limitations of his ambition in comparison to the formidable figure of Tan Zhongyu. Qin Xiaojun's anxiety intensified as he contemplated the implications of Dong Qingxue's insights. Placing his hands on his head in a gesture of frustration, he realized the gravity of the situation. The prospect of embarking on future battles with Lu Shang seemed uncertain, overshadowed by the uncertainty surrounding Lu Shang's allegiance and the looming presence of the martial arts saint. Meanwhile, Dong Qingxue maintained her composed demeanor, offering Qin Xiaojun a reassuring nod. Dong Qingxue leaned in close to Qin Xiaojun, her expression serious. She told him about the urgent mission ahead. Battle Zone 85 had discovered a new dimensional rift on the moon. They would have to prepare for a mission soon. Qin Xiaojun's reaction was immediate. He turned towards her, his eyes widening in shock. They had barely rested for a few days, and now another mission loomed ahead. It was annoying, to say the least. As Dong Qingxue pondered the situation, lost in her thoughts, Qin Xiaojun interrupted her reverie. He caught her attention, mentioning that Lu Shang was on TV. The news jolted Dong Qingxue out of her trance, and she turned her head towards the television screen. On the screen, Lu Shang's figure dominated the broadcast. He pointed directly at the camera, his expression determined. Everyone watched intently as he made his announcement. He wanted to challenge Master Lian Jibei, the great master from Jidao Martial School. Qin Xiaojun and Dong Qingxue exchanged glances, both wondering what was happening with Lu Shang. They approached the television, drawn into the unfolding drama. Just moments ago, Jiang He, standing tall in the ring, held the microphone with authority. He cast his gaze upon the crowd, his eyes settling on Lu Shang. With a voice that echoed throughout the arena, he declared Lu Shang as the champion of the National Martial Arts Competition for university students. The audience erupted into cheers, acknowledging Lu Shang's remarkable achievement. But just as Jiang He was about to proceed with the formalities of announcing the champion, a sudden interruption halted him in his tracks. A voice from the crowd called out, requesting a moment of pause. Jiang He, taken aback by the unexpected interruption, furrowed his brow in confusion, wondering what could be amiss. The source of the interruption soon revealed himself, none other than Lu Shang. With a confident stride, Lu Shang approached Jiang He, his demeanor respectful yet determined. He placed a hand over his chest, offering a slight bow of deference, addressing Jiang He as President Jiang. With unwavering confidence, Lu Shang expressed his request, hoping that Jiang would consider it. Jiang He, intrigued by Lu Shang's boldness, turned his attention fully towards him. Their eyes locked in a silent exchange of understanding. Jiang He extended his hand towards Lu Shang, a gesture of willingness to listen to his request. As Lu Shang began to speak, a subtle smile played upon his lips. He revealed to the crowd his true intentions for participating in the tournament, not merely to claim victory, but to appreciate the skills of the great masters and refine his own path in martial arts. But then, in a sudden shift of demeanor, Lu Shang turned to the side, his hand casually slipping into his pants pocket. With a pointed gesture, he expressed his disappointment with the crowd. His words hung heavy in the air, causing Jiang He to gaze at him intently, trying to decipher his intentions. Lu Shang's revelation struck a chord with everyone present. His candid admission of finding the tournament dull and uninspiring left the audience speechless. In that moment, the energy in the stadium shifted, as the spectators grappled with the implications of Lu Shang's bold declaration. As the silence lingered, Jiang He and the crowd alike were left to ponder the deeper significance of Lu Shang's words. In challenging the status quo, Lu Shang had ignited a spark of curiosity and contemplation, leaving an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of all who bore witness to his proclamation. The tension in the air was palpable as the woman accompanying Vice Dean Zhao approached him, her voice laced with concern. She sought answers about the unfolding drama involving Lu Shang. She warned Vice Dean Zhao that if Lu Shang continued down this path, he would inevitably become the target of all martial arts schools in the country. Vice Dean Zhao, his gaze fixed on Lu Shang, adjusted his glasses with a thoughtful expression. He responded to the woman, stating that he was just as perplexed by Lu Shang's actions. He emphasized that he knew Lu Shang well and believed him to be far from the type of person who would look down on others or succumb to arrogance. Meanwhile, as Zhao and the woman conversed, Lu Shang made a decisive gesture, pointing his finger towards a figure seated calmly on a couch. It was Lian Jibei, the renowned master of the Jidao martial school. With all eyes on him, Lu Shang voiced his disappointment with the martial arts school, particularly targeting the extreme twins, who were once hailed as the stars of Jidao. In a bold declaration, Lu Shang exposed the extreme twins as mere imposters, branding them as trash and fame seekers who had failed to grasp even the basics of the Gao legacy. His words cut deep, eliciting a mixture of shock and outrage from the spectators. Lian Jibei, unable to contain his fury, glared at Lu Shang with a gaze filled with murderous intent. He struggled to comprehend how someone could display such audacity and disrespect towards his school and students. The students of Jidao Martial School mirrored their master's anger, their fists clenched in frustration. Seated on the sofa, Lian Jibei's anger boiled over, his fist striking the armrest as he demanded an explanation from Lu Shang. His voice rang out, sharp with indignation, as he questioned the meaning behind Lu Shang's brazen accusations. Unfazed by the hostility directed towards him, Lu Shang turned his body towards Lian Jibei, his demeanor unwavering. He clarified his intentions, stating that his initial goal was to challenge the extreme twins to strengthen his martial will and surpass the master. However, having faced them in combat, he found them lacking in strength and skill. With these words, an intense blue aura began to emanate from Lu Shang's body, signaling the surge of power and determination within him. With a gaze filled with determination, Lu Shang locked eyes with Lian Jibei, the supreme master of Jidao. He boldly declared his intention to challenge the revered master then and there, sending shockwaves through the stadium. Lian Jibei, in response, met Lu Shang's gaze with equal intensity, his eyes burning with a murderous glare. The atmosphere crackled with tension as the two martial artists faced off, neither backing down from the other's gaze. The spectators, both in the stadium and those watching from home, were left stunned by Lu Shang's audacious challenge. They couldn't comprehend his boldness in challenging a master of Lian Jibei's caliber. Qinghe, watching the scene unfold through the television screen, couldn't help but wonder if Lu Shang truly intended to challenge Master Lian Jibei. On the other hand, Chun turned away from the television, deeply impressed by Lu Shang's courage. He saw Lu Shang as an incredible individual for daring to challenge such a formidable opponent. Dong Qingxue, however, remained silent, her arms crossed as she observed the confrontation. She understood Lu Shang's motivations and explained to Chun that Lu Shang's goal was to utilize Lian Jibei as a means to break through his final obstacle and leave a lasting impression in the battle against the 7th-level master. As the tension mounted in the stadium, Lian Jibei gathered momentum, leaping forward with determination to confront Lu Shang. With each step, he closed the distance between them, his intentions clear. Meanwhile, Lu Shang stood firm, his stance unwavering as he awaited Lian Jibei's approach. Dong Qingxue couldn't help but smile, knowing that Lu Shang was about to make history in the Dragon Kingdom. With each passing moment, the anticipation grew, building to a climax as Lian Jibei finally landed in the ring beside Lu Shang. In a stern warning, Lian Jibei cautioned Lu Shang against underestimating the gravity of their confrontation. His words carried the weight of his mastery, a reminder of the danger that lay ahead. In the face of Lian Jibei's warning, Lu Shang remained unperturbed, his hands casually tucked into his pockets. With a confident smile, Lu Shang reassured Lian Jibei, urging him not to worry. He reminded Lian Jibei that in the arena of life and death, true masters could maintain their composure even in the most intense of battles. Despite the gravity of the situation, Lu Shang exuded an air of confidence and poise. Meanwhile, the girl accompanying Zhao observed the unfolding exchange, her arms crossed in contemplation. She explained to the others that Lu Shang's decision to challenge Lian Jibei wasn't necessarily about proving his strength. Instead, she suggested that Lu Shang might be seeking to surpass them by using Lian Jibei as a training partner. Zhao, with one hand resting on the railing, turned towards the group, offering his insights. He emphasized Lian Jibei's status as the pinnacle of masters and highlighted Lu Shang's ongoing feud with the extreme twins. Given the merciless nature of Lian Jibei's potential retaliation, Zhao reasoned that it made sense for Lu Shang to seek a confrontation with him. As Zhao watched the events unfold, a bead of sweat formed on his brow, betraying his unease. He found it unusual for Lu Shang to seek to challenge a grandmaster in such a straightforward manner. This departure from Lu Shang's usual approach to conflict left Zhao feeling apprehensive and uncertain. Meanwhile, Lu Shang maintained his calm demeanor, his focus unwavering as he awaited Zhang He's decision. Zhang He, observing from the sidelines, couldn't help but stroke his beard in contemplation. Despite his initial reservations, he found himself impressed by Lu Shang's exceptional temperament and courage. Ultimately, Zhang He made the decision to accept Lu Shang's request. He issued orders to the grandmasters standing nearby, instructing them to remain vigilant throughout the fight and ensure that Lu Shang didn't sustain any serious injuries. With a nod of assurance from the grandmasters, Zhang He expressed his confidence in their ability to protect Lu Shang during the upcoming battle. As Lu Shang dropped his arms and awaited Lin Jibei's initiation of the fight, tension hung thick in the air. Lin Jibei met Lu Shang's gaze with a fierce, aggressive look, sizing up his opponent. Despite acknowledging Lu Shang's strength, Lin Jibei couldn't help but feel a twinge of disdain. After all, he was a seasoned master with over 2 decades of experience, while Lu Shang was merely a 6th-level fighter. The audacity of someone so seemingly arrogant challenging him, a master of his caliber, baffled Lin Jibei. With resolve hardening in his heart, Lin Jibei made a fateful decision. He would use his full power to deliver a single, decisive blow, aiming to end the fight swiftly and decisively. Meanwhile, Zhang He, flanked by 2 grandmasters, stepped into the ring, his demeanor calm and collected. With a gentle stroke of his beard, he extended his hand to signal the beginning of the battle, urging Lin Jibei to adhere to the agreed-upon limits and show restraint. As the tension reached its zenith, the clash between the 2 formidable opponents commenced. Lu Shang tapped into his inner power, igniting a powerful blue aura that enveloped his body. A sense of anticipation and exhilaration washed over him as he prepared to unleash the suppressed might that had been building within him for so long. This was the moment he had been eagerly awaiting, an opportunity to push himself beyond his limits and grow stronger in the face of adversity. However, Lu Shang was acutely aware of the monumental challenge ahead. He pondered how he would break through the barrier of a grandmaster's strength with the aid of others and emerge even stronger amidst the looming threat of death. Despite the uncertainty, Lu Shang remained resolute, determined to rise to the occasion and seize the opportunity for growth. On the other side of the ring, Lin Jibei extended his hands outward, channeling a suffocating energy that radiated from his body. His gaze locked onto Lu Shang, his voice reverberating with power as he posed a question. Was Lu Shang ready to face the full force of a master's pressure? With a deliberate movement, Lin Jibei invoked his transformation ability, causing his body to undergo a remarkable change. Scales began to materialize, his form taking on a menacing green hue as he prepared to unleash his full might upon his challenger. As Lin Jibei underwent his transformation, his body morphing into a formidable form, Lu Shang remained unfazed. With a deliberate drag of his foot and a swift offensive stance, Lu Shang showed no interest in becoming a grandmaster himself. Instead, his sole focus was on deciding the outcome of their confrontation, on determining life and death between them. With determination fueling his every step, Lu Shang advanced rapidly towards Lin Jibei, his movements calculated and precise. Before Lin Jibei could complete his transformation, Lu Shang closed the distance between them in the blink of an eye, appearing right before him with a fierce, murderous gaze. The suddenness of Lu Shang's approach left Lin Jibei stunned, his expression betraying his shock at the swiftness of his opponent. With unwavering resolve, Lu Shang locked eyes with Lin Jibei, his voice dripping with intensity as he issued a chilling invitation. He spoke of the Saint's Fist, extending an invitation to death to the Grandmaster himself. Lin Jibei's expression shifted dramatically at Lu Shang's words, his terror evident as he grappled with the gravity of the situation. As Lu Shang's eyes blazed with determination, he tapped into the power of the Sutra of the Divine King of Darkness, augmenting his life force with a surge of energy. With newfound strength coursing through him, Lu Shang unleashed the skill known as Star Dominion Burning Sunday. A fiery ball materialized in his palm, pulsating with raw power as he clenched his fist tightly. Utilizing the constant stellar emission ability, Lu Shang infused the fireball with blue flames, intensifying its potency. With momentum building, Lu Shang leaped forward, his body enveloped in a suffocating aura of energy. His eyes gleamed with determination as he closed the distance between himself and Lin Jibei, his fists poised for action. Employing the technique known as the power of the form of the divine whale law, Lu Shang's fist transformed into a blazing sun, radiating energy in all directions. The sheer force emanating from Lu Shang's attack left Lin Jibei reeling, his expression contorted in disbelief at the overwhelming power displayed by his opponent. Witnessing the intensity of the clash, Jiang He, recognizing the danger of the situation, acted swiftly. With a sense of urgency, he moved towards the ring, intent on intervening before the confrontation spiraled out of control. As the chaos unfolded in the ring, the masters by Jiang He's side moved quickly to intervene and stop Lu Shang's relentless assault on Lin Jibei. However, their efforts were in vain as Lu Shang's attack continued unabated. With a ferocious strike, Lu Shang unleashed a devastating explosion, the force of which was so immense that it shattered part of the ring floor into pieces. Amidst the aftermath of the explosion, a thick curtain of smoke enveloped the area, obscuring the scene from view. Slowly, as the smoke began to dissipate, the horrifying reality became clear. All that remained of Master Lin Jibei were his feet, a testament to the sheer power of Lu Shang's attack. With his fist extended towards the remnants of Lin Jibei, Lu Shang stood amidst the destruction, his body enveloped in a potent aura of energy. Jiang He, landing in the ring near Lu Shang, confronted him, demanding to know what he was doing. For a few moments, Lu Shang remained silent, his gaze fixed on Jiang He. Then, with a smile playing on his lips, he posed a daring question to the Grandmaster. Did Jiang He also wish to challenge him? The audacity of Lu Shang's challenge left Jiang He trembling with fear. He couldn't comprehend how Lu Shang, having just defeated a 7th-level master, now sought to challenge an 8th-level Grandmaster. Meanwhile, Zhao, observing the scene unfold, experienced a moment of clarity. He realized that Lin Jibei had been defeated without leaving behind even a body, a realization that dawned upon him like a sudden revelation. In that moment, Zhao understood the true nature of Lu Shang's intentions. He saw through the facade of power and prestige, recognizing that all Lu Shang truly desired was to confront the King of Masters himself. With a sense of newfound understanding, Zhao looked upon Lu Shang, his gaze unwavering, as he grasped the depth of Lu Shang's idealism. With his body radiating with powerful energy, Lu Shang turned his gaze towards Zhao, acknowledging the understanding that passed between them. In that moment of clarity, amidst the chaos and destruction, Lu Shang's true intentions were laid bare for all to see. The aftermath of Lu Shang's devastating attack left only Lin Jibei's feet remaining, a stark testament to the sheer power unleashed by Lu Shang. With both fists still clenched, Lu Shang stood amidst the wreckage, his gaze fixed on the remnants of his opponent. Jiang He descended into the ring, his shock palpable as he beheld the aftermath of the confrontation. His eyes bore a mixture of fear and awe as he contemplated the magnitude of Lu Shang's feat. The realization that a 19-year-old had single-handedly defeated a 7th-level master with a single move left Jiang He astounded and bewildered. To Jiang He, Lu Shang's prowess was nothing short of incredible, a testament to his exceptional talent and skill in martial arts. As Lu Shang stood in silence, his body radiating with powerful energy, Jiang He approached him, his demeanor solemn yet resolute. With hands clasped behind his back, Jiang He informed Lu Shang of his intention to report the matter to the Jidao Martial Arts School in St. Tanjungyu. Upon hearing Jiang He's voice, Lu Shang snapped out of his trance, his confusion evident as he turned towards Jiang He. However, Jiang He offered no further explanation, simply turning his back and beginning to move away. Lu Shang watched him depart, a sense of disappointment creeping over him. He had hoped for a confrontation with Jiang He, a chance to gauge the vast gulf between himself and an 8th-level Grandmaster. Yet, it seemed that Jiang He had no intention of engaging in such a battle. As Lu Shang pondered his next move, Zhao approached him, his expression filled with concern. With a gentle touch, Zhao urged Lu Shang to follow him, suggesting they leave the scene and retreat from the mountain. Lu Shang, shaken from his thoughts, met Zhao's gaze but offered no response, his silence speaking volumes. As Zhao urgently grabbed Lu Shang's arm, they swiftly navigated through the stadium, aiming to make a quick exit. Along the way, Zhao wasted no time in conveying his intentions to Lu Shang. He expressed his determination to return Lu Shang to the Seven Saints, emphasizing the gravity of the situation and the consequences of his actions. Despite the urgency of their escape, Lu Shang remained silent, absorbing Zhao's words without interruption. However, as they hurried along, a revelation from Lu Shang halted Zhao in his tracks. With a calm demeanor, Lu Shang disclosed his awareness of Lin Jibei's true identity as the brother of Lin Su, the wife of the martial saint. This revelation added another layer of complexity to their predicament, further complicating their escape. Upon hearing Lu Shang's revelation, Zhao's shock was palpable. His grip tightened on Lu Shang's arm as he questioned the audacity of his actions. He reminded Lu Shang of the harsh realities of their world, emphasizing that aside from Tan Zhongyu, no one could offer him protection. Yet, despite Zhao's admonishments, Lu Shang remained composed, his silence speaking volumes. With a gesture, Lu Shang gently freed himself from Zhao's grasp, his expression serene as he expressed gratitude for Zhao's concern. However, Lu Shang's refusal to seek refuge with Tan Zhongyu perplexed Zhao. He implored Lu Shang to consider the potential repercussions for his family and friends, urging him to prioritize their safety above all else. In the face of Zhao's impassioned pleas, Lu Shang maintained his calm demeanor, his hands casually tucked into his pockets. He watched as Zhao retreated, a small smile playing at the corners of his lips. To Zhao's exasperation, Lu Shang simply affirmed his decision with a simple yes, signaling his resolve to face whatever consequences lay ahead. Upon hearing Lu Shang's resolute response, Zhao halted his steps, turning to face him with a mixture of confusion and concern etched on his features. Lu Shang, his demeanor calm yet determined, offered a simple explanation for his refusal to accompany Zhao. Once the Lin family discovered the truth, it would be too late for him to seek refuge. This assertion left Zhao visibly taken aback, grappling with the implications of Lu Shang's words. As Lu Shang elucidated his intentions to Zhao, the tension in the air began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of understanding. Zhao, now composed, placed his hands on his hips, silently acknowledging that he comprehended Lu Shang's plan. He made a decision to wait for Lu Shang in Kyoto, offering his support and companionship should Lu Shang require it. However, Lu Shang, his hands casually tucked into his pockets, declined Zhao's offer, his demeanor exuding an aura of self-assurance. With a smile playing on his lips, Lu Shang proceeded towards the stairs leading down from St. Mountain. As he descended the stairs with remarkable speed, he issued a challenge to Zhao to keep pace with him. In an instant, Lu Shang surged ahead, effortlessly outpacing Zhao and leaving him trailing behind, awestruck by the sheer velocity of Lu Shang's movements. Meanwhile, at the train station, Qinghe and her parents prepared to embark on their journey to St. Mountain. With anticipation hanging in the air, Qinghe's father checked his watch, noting the remaining time until their departure. As they awaited the arrival of the high-speed train, Qinghe's mind wandered, contemplating the abrupt conclusion of the live broadcast just as Lu Shang was poised to challenge Master Lian Jibei. Lu Shang's mother, her eyes brimming with tears, approached his father, clutching his arm tightly. With a quivering voice, she implored him to find a faster train, her fears for their beloved son palpable. The thought of anything happening to Lu Shang filled her with dread, leaving her overwhelmed with emotion. Unable to contain her anguish, she turned away, pressing both hands to her face as tears streamed down her cheeks. In response, Lu Shang's father gently placed his hands on her shoulders, offering reassurance amidst her distress. He turned to Qinghe, requesting her assistance in calming his wife's frayed nerves, assuring her that Lu Shang would be safe. Qinghe, somewhat taken aback, approached them, uncertain of how to ease her wish. As Qinghe pondered how to comfort Lu Shang's mother, the gravity of the situation weighed heavily on her mind. She recalled the formidable power of Lian Jibei, a level 7 grandmaster, and the potential dangers that awaited Lu Shang in his quest for vengeance. Despite her own fears, she knew she had to find a way to reassure Lu Shang's mother and alleviate her anxieties. Approaching Lu Shang's mother with empathy in her eyes, Qinghe gently urged her not to worry, offering words of solace and assurance. Gradually, Lu Shang's mother's frantic sobs began to subside, a semblance of calm returning to her demeanor. In the midst of their conversation, Lu Shang's mother's phone rang, interrupting their exchange with an urgent call. With trepidation etched on her face, she answered, her heart pounding with apprehension. To her relief, the caller was none other than Lu Shang himself. With newfound clarity, she lifted her gaze skyward, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips as she assured Lu Shang that she had grasped the situation. Upon seeing the call from their son, Lu Shang, the parents were taken aback, their expressions reflecting a mix of surprise and concern. While Lu Shang's father offered comfort with hands placed gently on his wife's shoulders, she clutched her chest, her worry evident as she approached Qinghe for reassurance. With a hopeful expression, she inquired about Lu Shang's well-being. Meanwhile, Qinghe, holding the phone to her ear, gestured toward the device with one hand while addressing Lu Shang's mother. With a comforting smile, she explained the interruption in the live TV broadcast, attributing it to poor signal reception in the mountains. Her words brought a sense of relief to Lu Shang's mother, who ceased her tears, grateful that nothing untoward had befallen her beloved son. With a tremor in her voice, Lu Shang's mother expressed her anxieties, questioning who had caused such a scare and emphasizing their worries for his safety. In response, Lu Shang reassured his mother, explaining that he was merely preparing to receive an award on stage, dispelling her concerns and prompting a sigh of relief. She urged him not to fret, assuring him that they wouldn't trouble him further and expressing her longing for his return home in the coming days. As Lu Shang ended the call, Qinghe's demeanor remained thoughtful, a small smile gracing her lips as she pondered his words. While Lu Shang's parents engaged in conversation, discussing the events that had transpired, Qinghe remained silent, her mind occupied with thoughts of the unusual trophy delivery program mentioned by Lu Shang. However, recognizing the futility of dwelling on uncertainties, Qinghe made a conscious decision to place her trust in Lu Shang's judgment, resolving to set aside her worries. With a playful grin, she reminded her father about returning the expensive train tickets, their conversation shifting to lighthearted topics as they contemplated the possibility of using the refunded money to indulge in a meal together. The family was happily conversing, unaware of the mysterious figure observing them from a hidden vantage point. This man, concealed behind a corner, wears a cap and an earpiece, signaling his affiliation with a secretive group. As he observes Qinghe and her parents, he communicates discreetly with his superiors, reporting their return and continued surveillance. Acknowledging the report, the man's superiors express gratitude, indicating that they are still under observation. With a touch to his earpiece, the man reassures them, stating that he will handle the situation now that he has received payment, mentioning orders from Master Yu. This cryptic exchange hints at an impending confrontation or scheme involving the family. Meanwhile, news of Lian Jibei's demise spreads rapidly, sending shockwaves through the community. The man monitoring the family reacts with terror and sweat, realizing the gravity of Lu Shang's actions. Despite being just 19 years old, Lu Shang has demonstrated formidable prowess by defeating a martial arts master. As Lu Shang checks his phone, contemplating the safety of his loved ones, he recalls Vice President Zhao's warning about Lian Su, Lian Jibei's sister, and the potential retaliation from the powerful Lian family. Despite his fear, Lu Shang resolves not to let fear dictate his actions, acknowledging that some challenges must be faced head-on. With an aura of determination surrounding him, Lu Shang enters a store named K, his hands tucked into his pockets. Responding to Zhao's earlier inquiry, Lu Shang admits his fear of the consequences but affirms his unwillingness to succumb to intimidation. He refuses to live in fear under the constant scrutiny of the Lian family. As Lu Shang navigates the aisles of the store, his resolve remains unshaken. He reaches the door of the VIP room, poised to confront whatever challenges lie ahead. As he stood there, he activated his perception ability, a skill honed through years of martial arts training. Through this ability, he discerned the presence of two individuals inside the room. One was seated, his posture conveying a mix of grief and disbelief. This was Lian Jibei's son, burdened with the news of his father's demise. The grief-stricken young man conveyed the news to the other person in the room, who stood by, perhaps a companion or an associate. The son's anguish was palpable as he recounted the loss of his father. He expressed regret, having urged his father to avoid any reckless actions that might endanger him. His hands pressed against his head, a gesture of despair and frustration. With a mix of sorrow and anger, the son questioned why they hadn't already avenged his father's death. Gripped by emotion, he rose from his seat, determination etched across his face. His hand clenched tightly around the doorknob, and with resolve, he swung the door open, ready to confront the one responsible for his father's death. However, as the door revealed the figures standing on the threshold, the son's expression shifted to confusion. Before him stood Lu Shang, an enigmatic figure radiating an intense energy. Despite the grief and turmoil within him, Lu Shang's demeanor exuded an aura of confidence and purpose. With a calm yet resolute voice, Lu Shang addressed the son, acknowledging the loss of his father and offering to escort him to see him.